We have heard much about globalism and one world economy, and now we're starting to see where it's popular to focus on one nation, which is not really wrong because it's God that's established a nation. But we have to remember as Christians, as believers, we're part of one nation, a kingdom, the kingdom of God. Really, we're global Christians. As a matter of fact, we're going to take a look at that right now. Check it out. Be sure to subscribe and press alert to get new notifications of new success secrets made available on VFNtv. Just speaking about, not wanting to miss what God's doing in the world. And the truth is we became very self-focused as Americans and even American Christians. I mean, you think about it, if other nations became as blessed as America is, and America went down to a third world nation, how many missionaries would all of a sudden there would be going like, I want to go to that capital nation that's got, great living, but it's difficult. This is what Jesus said. I mean, he said it. He just said it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter in the kingdom of God. And the disciples' response was, well, then who can go? He said, and this is how significant it is. He goes, well, what's impossible with man is possible with God. And you have to really be very careful when you're blessed that you don't all of a sudden make the blessing your God. And the rich young ruler, think about the rich young ruler. He would, he thought he was right. He thought he was right because he said, what do I got to do to be saved? And Jesus began to explain, don't, commit adultery and these different things. And he goes, I've done this since all of my life, Here you can see it, right?
All 13 years old.
Yeah. Was he 13?
I don't know. I'm just joking.
I was like, I thought he was older than that.
I'm just joking.
Anyway, so right, though. And so Jesus says, oh, yeah, one more thing. If you're going to go through the eye of the needle, if you're going to get into the kingdom of God, for him, he had to give everything he had to the poor because that was his God. It's not that you have to give everything, but maybe so. I mean, think about it. But to him, that was his God, because you found out he chose that God, the God of money and wealth, over God, over Jesus. He chose that. And he says he walked away sad because he had many things. And you think about Francis Chan. I mean, it challenges you in living small and living flexible. And he just willing to move into to do anything, to do whatever God said. It's just beautiful to be able to see that. And I think, one thing you said on the break, John, is important for us to you talk about global citizens now, and you're starting, it's like people say, you're talking one world economy. Well, it's kind of obvious when you can email to China in 5 seconds and you can buy your products at great discounts from, India. And you're not going to be able to stop that happening. The question is that going to be your God? And that's a global citizen, is that you start thinking about, well, what we're doing here, we cannot enslave an entire nation to feed our nation low income, low priced products. We have to start thinking about the reason why this company has such low prices is because this other country, for example in India, is paying dollars where we pay thousands of dollars, they pay dollars for, and that's why you get it at a lower price. So as a global citizen, some people take advantage of that by doing that, but you were talking about being global Christians, right?
That's right. The perspective is we put all the emphasis on exactly what you just been saying, when in reality we need to put our focus as a global Christian so that we're just not focusing on what's happening in our own country or in the kingdom of God as we're experiencing it in our nation, but to look at the kingdom of God across the globe and relate that person's not just a Chinese citizen of China, but hopefully that's my brother and sister who just happens to be Chinese, or if they're not in the Lord, they haven't received salvation, we're looking at them not as an enemy or a competitor because they trade a market, but we're looking at them as people that we want to be able to reach with the love of God. And it just changes our whole paradigm. When you start mixing politics and start looking geography and casting judgment over a nation because of its leaders, you're looking at the wrong perspective. We have, as Christians, as believers, we have to look at all the people in the world and say, man, forget this global citizen stuff. I mean, it happens, sure, but we need to be global Christians. How can we reach the nations of the world? E
pluribus unum, right?
Yeah.
E pluribus unum. And so you think about that, and I was just thinking about some cookies that Donna had purchased at a low price, right? And I was thinking, there's no way that this particular, I'm not going to talk about the chain that had these particular cookies. I said, there's something not right. And so I looked on, where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, this is how things seem to be masked. It says, it's distributed by a company out of Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but you can call this number if you have any information. So you call the number, and that was not a Tennessean on the phone.
Oh, wow.
And they goes, that's a very good question. And, and it's like, where did those cookies come from? Where does this product come from? And why is it so cheap? And we have to ask questions like that. Are we okay? Yeah, because, we have a horrific history in America where we enslaved part of our people for a long period of time. And we see how bad that is. But I see people who say it's bad, and maybe even in their genealogy, they had members of their family that were enslaved. At the same time, go down and get this great priced item from a local store, not realizing a slave made that item in another nation that got paid $2 a week to be able to make that. And it's like, we got a global Christian is where we start thinking like, well, slavery's not only bad in our nation, slavery's bad in every nation.
That's right.
If I got to live with the same shirt for a whole week, you know what I'm saying? If I gotta keep my clothes longer to make sure that other people are not enslaved. I mean, how many people are being enslaved right now because people want that best price? And that's why the markets are turning to Asia, because Asia has people that are putting together, this is some reports, people that were putting together the iPhone or building parts of the iPhone, some of them were jumped off the roof, or one of them was reported jumped off the roof of the building to commit suicide, reports are.
Wow. Because
of the oppressive nature of what's going on. And I'm not saying I don't have the facts on that, so I just know what is allegedly being said. But also there has been where they've taken American businessmen and basically locked them in the building over there and wouldn't let them out because of the way they were treating the workers. And it's just like, it's not, everything costs, everything costs. Somebody said this, it said, when the economy crashes and when these different things happen, that money doesn't disappear, it just shifts. And the thing is, you have to position yourself to where it's going to shift. Well, if you're still wearing shirts and pants and clothes and all this kind of stuff, it's still being made. There's somebody in the process of making this thing. So the labor shifted. And if the labor shifts and the price goes down, it means now the laborer is getting paid less money for the thing. So the reason why you got such a good deal is because potentially somebody that is under oppression in the workplace in some other nation made that.
Yeah. What's even happening in this nation, you look at some of the way that some folks have been brought over to this country to work and some of the housing conditions. You wouldn't put an animal in some of those housing conditions. People stack 3 and 4 stories in a bed, very narrow, and just being fed. And we got to look at all these type of things, who's building the homes and what type of labor was involved in that, who you're hiring, and all those different things, because at the end of the day, can we sleep comfortably knowing that we're living in a home that was built by somebody who's just being taken advantage of?
And if you don't live as a global Christian, I really believe you're going to miss out on what God's doing, because it's a worldwide thing God's doing. And one aspect of being a global Christian is thinking about Israel. Thinking about what is God's perspective of Israel and what's happening, and staying tuned maybe to VFNtv and daily radio program to stay up on what's going on. Be sure to subscribe and press alert to get new notifications of new success secrets made available on VFNtv. A lot of people want to abide with the Lord, but they just don't have a plan to do it. You can request that plan today at iabide.org. I'm your host, Greg Lancaster, and we're so glad that you've joined us. Don't forget you can join us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download our app and sign up for our newsletter, The Torch, at VFNtv.com. I've enjoyed our time together. God bless.